Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's story is not written in textbooks. It doesn't appear on monuments. And for generations, it was never meant to be told. This is the story of Isaac Brown, a black man, enslaved in Texas, whose knowledge, skill, and intelligence helped build America's infrastructure while America refused to remember his name. This is a story about bridges. Not just the kind made of wood and iron, but the bridges between truth and silence, between history and denial, between who built this country and who was allowed to take the credit. To understand Isaac Brown, we must first understand the world that trapped him. Texas in the early 19th century was a land of expansion and violence, a frontier fueled by ambition and powered by slavery. Enslaved black people were treated as property, but they were used as far more than brute labor. They were the backbone of construction, agriculture, and industry. Slavery was not only about physical strength. It was about extracting intelligence, extracting creativity, extracting problem-solving skills without ever acknowledging the source. American history often tells us enslaved people were unskilled laborers. That idea collapses the moment you look at what they built. Roads that stretched for miles. Buildings that still stand centuries later. Bridges that carried wagons, livestock, trade, and entire communities. None of these structures could exist without planning, measurement, and engineering knowledge. Someone had to understand weight, balance, materials, and terrain. Very often, that someone was black and enslaved. White plantation owners and contractors understood this reality very well. They knew that acknowledging black intelligence would destroy the moral justification of slavery. If enslaved people were capable of engineering, design, and leadership, then slavery was not about guidance or civilization, it was about control. So black genius had to be hidden. Black expertise had to be stolen. Credit had to be redirected. Isaac Brown lived within this system. His name survives only in fragments, legal references, and the shadows of historical silence. He does not appear in grand biographies or school curricula, and that absence is intentional. What we know suggests he was an enslaved man in Texas whose intelligence set him apart. He was used where thinking mattered, where mistakes could be fatal, where structures needed to endure floods, weight, and time. He worked on bridges, structures that demanded engineering understanding, not guesswork. An enslaved man with advanced skills was both valuable and dangerous. Valuable because he reduced costs and increased efficiency. Dangerous because his existence contradicted the lie that black people were inferior. Men like Isaac Brown were placed in positions where they planned, calculated, and supervised work, but they were never allowed to claim authorship. Overseers wrote reports. Contractors signed documents. Slaveholders accepted praise. The enslaved engineer remained invisible. Bridge building in the 19th century was not simple labor. It required surveying land, understanding water flow, selecting materials, and calculating load distribution. These were engineering decisions. Enslaved black men learned these skills through forced labor, observation, and necessity. Their education was unpaid, uncredited, and undocumented. Isaac Brown was part of this hidden class of builders whose work supported commerce and expansion while their names were erased. The theft of credit was not accidental. It was systematic. Enslaved people could not own property. They could not patent inventions. They could not enter contracts. Even if an enslaved man designed a structure from start to finish, the law recognized only the white owner. Intelligence itself became stolen property. When slavery ended, erasure did not. Reconstruction brought freedom in name, but history was already being rewritten. Records were altered, destroyed, or deliberately vague. Skilled black builders were reclassified as laborers. Engineers became assistants. Leaders became helpers. The story of American progress was cleaned of black authorship. Isaac Brown vanished into that silence. Not because he did not matter, but because acknowledging him would force America to confront an uncomfortable truth, that the nation was built by people it refused to see as human. Admitting black engineering excellence would mean admitting that racism was never about ability. It was about power. This is why stories like Isaac Brown's survive only in pieces. This is why certainty is rare but patterns are clear. Across the South, across Texas, across the United States, black men built infrastructure that allowed others to prosper. Their work carried people across rivers and into new futures, while they themselves remained trapped in chains or poverty. The bridges Isaac Brown helped build may no longer stand. Wood rots. Iron rusts. Floods and time erase physical structures. But the legacy of that stolen labor remains embedded in the country itself. Every modern highway, every steel bridge, every architectural achievement rests on a foundation laid by people whose names were denied. Remembering Isaac Brown is not about claiming perfection in historical records. It is about refusing silence. It is about recognizing that history is not only what is written, but also what was deliberately left out. Speaking his name challenges a system that depended on forgetting. Isaac Brown's story is not just one man's tragedy. It is America's story. A nation built on stolen labor, stolen intelligence, and stolen credit. The bridges still stand, not only across rivers, but across the truth itself. And every time we tell these stories, every time we reclaim a name that was erased, we rebuild something history tried to destroy. Memory. Justice. Truth. If you believe these stories matter, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories history tried to bury. Because silence only wins when we stop speaking.